GamingCapsules.
Previously on River City Girls.
Here lies Misako, killed by numbers.
I don't even go to this school.
Come in, Kunio.
Are you crazy? They barely remember you.
Yeah, you guys dated them for like one 16-bit game.
That wasn't even released in the USA.
Talk about obscure.
You want to fight again?
Hey, you, don't you know where you are? Hey, everybody! Representing River City. Tonight's act is the one, the only River City Girls. Everybody makes some noise.
River City Girls Zero is the latest game in the Kunio-kun franchise to make its way to the West. It's actually a Japanese Super Famicom game originally released in 1994, and this is the first time it makes its official debut in English and a few other languages. As we saw in the intro, this intro, the world of River City Girls is aware, in a fourth wall breaking way, about the existence of this classic title. But what exactly is River City Girls Zero? The original Japanese title that this game went by in 1994 was Shin Neketsu Koha, Kunio-tachi no Banka. This title would translate to something like the new Neketsu Koha or the new renegade or tough guy of Neketsu, elegy of Kunio's gang. New Neketsu Koha refers to the fact that this was a follow-up to the original 1986 arcade game, Neketsu Koha Kunio-kun, which is the very first game in the Kunio or River City franchise. It's also the starting point of the Technos beat-em-up library, which included other titles like Double Dragon and the Combat Tribes. Incidentally, if you ever played a classic-styled beat-em-up, like Final Fight or TMNT, well, they're all evolutions of the formula originally set by Neketsu Koha Kunio-kun. It was the first traditional beat-em-up as we've come to know them. Now, one thing to understand is that the character Kunio was to Technos what Mario is to Nintendo, a mascot to use in various types of games. Many different titles starred Kunio in the 80s and 90s, and most of them moved away from not just the gameplay style of the original Neketsu Koha, but they also adopted a very different look and feel. The original game had large, more realistically proportioned sprites, albeit with cartoony expressive faces. It really sprinkled its world with the identity of Japanese juvenile delinquents, with tough-looking teens yelling taunts and insults at each other. It also had female opponents, motorcycle gangs, and even Yakuza gangsters. It was playful and comical, but not quite to the extent of River City Ransom or the various sports games, which admittingly had more family-friendly renditions of Kunio's misadventures. The violence became more exaggerated, the characters became super deformed, and most of the games were mainly about young schoolboys fighting against other schoolboys, be it on the streets or on the court, while the more violent elements and weapons were reserved for the Double Dragon games instead. Shin Neketsu Koha Kunio-kun, Kunio-tachi no Banka, was therefore a return to form. It brings back the larger character sprites, the exaggerated gangster-like moments and rude language, and once again we have female opponents, motorcycle gangs, and Yakuza with their guns and knives. But this was 1994, and by this point, Technos had released a lot of not just Kunio games, but also the aforementioned Double Dragon titles. So there's a little bit of Double Dragon DNA in Kunio-tachi no Banka. For example, we now have some memorable, yet tricky, moving platform segments. You can also swap between different characters on the fly, like in Double Dragon 3. And just who are these characters you can swap between? Besides Kunio, there's his usual rival Riki and, that's right, Kyoko and Misako make their face-bashing premiere in Kunio-tachi no Banka. Misako was actually borrowed from the Kunio sports titles. She first appeared in the Kunio soccer games, where she was the manager for Neketsu High's soccer club. Instead of her fists, she used her charms to get her way. In Kunio-tachi no Banka, however, she's decidedly more direct and doesn't shy away from a swift kick in the ouch. As for Kyoko, Kunio-tachi no Banka is her debut title. Of course, we now live in a world where River City Girls, thankfully, exists, and to a lot of players, River City Girls was their introduction to these two hot-blooded tough ladies. This is why the official English release replaced the Shin Neketsu Koha Kunio-kun title for River City Girls 0, although it does keep the Kunio-tachi no Banka subtitle in Japanese. Fans of River City Girls could find this game to be quite interesting. For one, the dev team has confirmed that Kunio-tachi no Banka was the main source of inspiration for River City Girls, and this is the origin story for the characters Misako and Kyoko as the face-punching vedettes that fans have come to love. Not to mention, the team has also said that being familiar with the game should increase appreciation for River City Girls 2, and we can already see returning elements from it in pre-release promotional material.
Kyoko?
I don't know. That skeleton guy at the pawn shop said it was some really old video game about our first adventure together, but I have no idea how to play it.
Why would you buy something?
Within the world of River City Girls, Kunio-tachi no Banka is actually introduced to Kyoko and Misako as a video game, which they managed to get their hands on thanks to Skullmageddon, ex-final boss of Double Dragon Neon, and the pawn shop owner who sells them the game.
Did also throw in this thing for free. I think it's some kind of cyborg octopus?
Oh yeah, give me that.
Kunio-tachi no Banka is actually kind of dark in the beginning, with Kunio and Riki being arrested after supposedly being involved in a hit-and-run incident. But of course, this being the Kunio universe, it doesn't stay serious for very long, and Kunio and Riki beat up some prison guards, break out of jail, and begin a teeth-shattering investigation to clear their names. Now, here are some of the main faces you'll be punching in River City Girls 0. Takayama! Takayama is a new character. He's on the side of the law and absolutely hates teen delinquents, fearing that they're a bad influence on his son Mamoru. Throughout River City Girls 0, he persistently chases after Kunio and Riki, working towards putting them back in prison. Daiki! This guy took over Neketsu High during Kunio's absence, stole his uniform, and began spreading rumors about getting together with Misako in Kunio's absence. Honestly, he went the extra mile in making sure to get a special spot in Kunio's list. Beating him and reclaiming Kunio's classic uniform also unlocks the ability to perform special moves, and Misako will become available as a playable character, so let your fists go loose on this guy. Ryuta! Not only has Ryuta taken over Hanazono High, Riki's school, but he also completely trashed the place to the point where the whole school is crumbling down. He could have stopped there and it would have been enough to anger Riki, but no, he's hitting on Kyoko and forcing students to work for the mafia. Yeah, he's not getting away with this. Shinji! Shinji is a returning character from the original Kunio game, where he was one of the main bosses you must defeat. He operates from a pier, and in most modern Kunio games, he's kind of a frenemy to Kunio, sometimes tagging along to help out, much like Riki and Misuzu. You may also remember him as a shopkeeper in River City Girls. In this one, however, he is still kind of a jerk. He handles money for the mafia and forces students to perform manual labor. Just like in the Famicom version of the original Kunio game, you're given access to a sweet motorcycle to track him down. Misuzu! Misuzu is another returning character from the original Kunio. Just like Shinji, she's kind of an ally to Kunio, sometimes. Sadly for Kunio, she really enjoys fighting him. And I say sadly because, no matter how strong Kunio and his friends are, Misuzu's, yeah, she hits like a truck. In-game characters tend to reflect the actual faces players make whenever she's on screen. In this one, she has a bad gambling addiction and works with the mafia to pay off her bad habits. Ken is another new character. He sort of looks like Kunio and can do some of Kunio and Riki's special attacks. In the new script, Misako is pretty happy to have twice the Kunio in her life. Thankfully, or maybe unfortunately for her, she will not have to wait very long before seeing him again. That's because, and I'm actually really happy to say this, Ken is 100% confirmed to be present in River City Girls 2, where he will be fighting alongside his family.
Sabu family rules!
That is to say, his sister Sabuko and his father Sabu. Speaking of which, Sabu! Remember all those breakable statues in River City Girls? Those were statues of Sabu, the final boss in the original Kunio game. Well, he's pretty pissed at Kunio for the beating he received in the 80s. Just like Ken, it's confirmed that Sabu will be coming out of the shadows, or I guess jail in his case, and play an important role in River City Girls 2. He definitely doesn't hesitate when it comes to getting payback and making things happen. Not to mention, Sabu will make fun of you if you try to get through the game in easy mode. I won't spoil anything, but chances are you'll want to break his smug face shortly after meeting him. The original game was made by a lot of the main Technos members responsible for classic Kunio and Double Dragon titles. Yoshihisa Kishimoto, creator of Kunio and also the main source of inspiration for the character and setting, returned to assume direction duties. Kazunaka Yamane, the composer responsible for the memorable soundtracks in the Double Dragon series, was in charge for the music in this game. In fact, there are 2 tracks from Kunio Tachi no Banka which were reinterpreted by Megan McDuffie in River City Girls. Here's some samples. Meanwhile, Hiroshi Yokokura gave the script its original punchy tone. For a 16-bit beat-em-up, this game has a surprising amount of story. It certainly has a lot more dialogue and a much more cinematic-like approach to the way the plot unfolds than in previous games in the Kunio franchise. Now, while this is mechanically the same game as it appeared on the Super Famicom, WayForward and Limited Run Games did add some extras. Enclosing the overall package, you have a new intro and ending animated sequences, with the intro song by River City Girls composer Megan McDuffie and an end credit song by Megan McDuffie and Demon Dice, with lyrics by both Megan and River City Girls co-creator and writer Adam Tierney. The songs are very catchy and admittingly pretty funny. Updated character designs and animation direction duties were handled by David Liu, who you may recognize for his incredibly cool and detailed 80s anime influenced art. It really fits Kunio like a glove, and it's fun to see the original cover art recreated in his style. To explain the story and connect it better with the rest of the River City Girls series, we also get treated to a new manga intro and ending sequences, with Rem from River City Girls returning as their illustrator. Now, another thing to note about these cutscenes is the voice acting. Kaylee Mills and Kira Buckland returned to voice Misako and Kyoko, and they continue to do an awesome job in bringing these characters to life.
This is pretty rad. We should tell people about this game. You think anyone's gonna care about a 25-year-old game featuring us and our boyfriends? I don't know.
But unlike the first River City Girls, you can now also hear their voices in Japanese, voiced by Honoka Kuroki and Sumire Morohoshi.
例えば新しいイントロに新しいテーマ曲新しいシーンなんかを加えてさ確かにそれなら悪くないかも
Now, The original 1994 Kunio-tachi no Banka is tonally pretty different from River City Girls. This is why the game lets you choose between two different localization options. Original is a more faithful localization with all the foul language and original character traits, keeping the spirit of the original game more intact in its English script. On the other hand, we have the RCG mode, which contains a reworked localization, better connecting the tone and characters to what we've seen in River City Girls. They both still tell the exact same story, but take different approaches to how they tell it. I think the modern translation is closer in spirit to similar approaches taken by companies in the 90s, and I personally really like that this game lets you experience both. You can also just play the game in Japanese and feel like a cool kid from the 90s. Or even play the game in French, Italian, German or Spanish for the very first time. But why stop there? You can also go to the gallery mode where you can look at a 3D recreation of the original cart, the original box, or flip through the original Japanese manual. Now that's how you can recreate the 90s experience right there. So, back to my original question. What is River City Girls Zero? As a beat 'em up, it's a celebration of everything Technos had done up to that point. As a story, it fleshed out the Kunio universe and established new relationships between characters. And as a River City Girls game, it kinda went full on with the theme of dating. You visit the attraction park, ride a Ferris wheel, and a roller coaster. There's motorcycle rides with your significant other, and you even get to mix and match. You can make your own power couple. At night, you even hit the dance club scene. Honestly, it's kinda cute when you think about it, even though you're actually engaging in dangerous fights at each and every one of these locations. I mean, this is River City after all. River City Girls Zero is available digitally on the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox, and on PC. There is also a physical release from Limited Run Games, and one of the versions includes figures for Misako and Kyoko in their Kunio-tachi no Banka uniforms. Well, hope this video was useful in explaining River City Girls Zero. If you want to see more videos about the Kunio games and its history, you can check out my channel, GamingCapsules. Don't forget to subscribe to WayForward's YouTube channel for future updates on River City Girls 2, which should be releasing soon. Have a great rest of your day, and until next time.